freaking excited to have Miss Jennifer Bell on my podcast today, Life Beyond Balance. And here's the thing, for so many years, I thought I had to live a certain way because I had a lot of trauma in my life, and people have trauma in different ways and different levels, different experiences. Some's worse than others, but it's like, I remember the first time somebody told me I had PTSD, and I was like, no. That's like for like army people, right? Or like for like first responders. Like, I don't have PTSD. And they're like, you have PTSD. And I was like, what? And so like, you don't realize that incrementally these things over your life can shape who you are, shape your behavior, shape your habits, and all of those things. But once you learn to heal them, they allow you to step into the version of who you're truly meant to be. And so I brought Jennifer on here because she has an incredible conference called Courage to Heal that is coming up at the end of May. And I wanted her to share her vision for that. I wanted her to tell her story today and share with you why this is so important and why she has this mission. So Jennifer, first of all, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that we are connected. I think social media, I think business, I think, women in my life. I'm so grateful that this network of people have brought amazing humans into my life. When I saw that you were doing this conference, I was like, I need to share this woman and shout her name from the rooftop. So Jennifer, can you just share a little bit about yourself with my audience, and we'll talk a little bit about what you've got coming up.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Christina, for having me, because this is a godsend. It's a blessing for me to share my story and to be on your podcast. I'm very, very grateful. So my name is Jennifer Bell, aka J Bell, and I'm on a mission to help women to be seen, to be heard, and encouraged to heal. Heal from what? Whatever is causing them not to show up in their authentic self in a way that brings her joy, that brings God glory, and also without apology. And so I have been missioned, or God has told me, listen, you need to create a space and a place for women to be seen, heard, and encouraged to heal. Once again, that stems from my own story. I am a former school principal. I'm married to the love of my life for almost 35 years. Yeah, we have 3 amazing adult human beings, and the youngest is about to graduate from UT. But we're just so blessed. But no one would ever know, like you said, Christina, you had PTSD. You're like, not me. That's not Army. I never knew what depression was because I was never sad. I never could, never stayed in bed. I'm thinking I'm just doing great. I show up. I do what I'm supposed to do. I do it with a spirit of excellence. And then I go home and I'm like, do mom, all the things. But there was a time when I would go home and no one would see me crying. No one knew the little girl on the inside did not know how to navigate trauma that she experienced 38 years prior. It's been longer than that now. But it took me 38 years to even address the fact that I need to feel so I can deal and then heal from the thing that kept holding me back from being everything Jennifer needed to be. Not my profession, not my identity, not the music minister, not all the things that people saw me as. And then once I started to address that, that was my wake-up call to say, you know what? There are other women who are suffering in silence and just don't even, they're thinking they're all alone. So that's how my story started. It did start with, just harboring behind the ashes of my beauty, right? I didn't know how to talk about my trauma. I did not know how to address it. We didn't talk to psychiatrists and psychologists and all those things because I was functioning. I was a high functioning depressant, whatever you want to call it, right?
True.
And, but until I really got real about what was happening with me, I had a wake up call where I almost lost my life. And I remember during that time, we were living in Turkey. My husband is he's a retired colonel with the Air Force. And so doing what we normally do, your mom, your husband, a wife, all the things that you're doing. I was so busy that day, but I'll never forget that spring when I was going to rehearsal after school and I just fell over because I had been going, get the kids, do this, all the afternoon activities. And all of a sudden I realized something is not right. But in that very moment, I'm going to try to say this without being emotional. In that very moment, I knew God was taking me. Because if the lady next to me wasn't standing there, I would have hit the floor. So as they are working on me and all the things, I distinctly heard God say, no, I'm not taking you. I have things for you to do. And in that instant, I felt this peace that overcame me. And I said, do whatever you have to do. And I was okay. That was 2004. Now, mind you, I was overworked, I was overweight, I was overwhelmed, doing all the things. So my health was lacking.
Yeah.
So the next 10 years, I worked on my health, going on every diet out there, you name it, right? Diets don't work. Until I came across wonderful supplements, got the weight off, had it off for almost 9 years now. So I'm like, I'm good to go, right? But my heart wasn't healed. Mm-hmm. So it was the internal weight that showed up externally, right? But until I dealt with the inside, that's where the courage to heal for me started to spark and say, I need to get help for that internal weight that nobody can help me with. I prayed about it. I've talked to a couple of people, and it's kind of like, it's still there. I need help. And so I always say this, Jesus plus therapy equals healing. So that started my healing journey.
I love that, but it's important, right? I think normalizing counseling, normalizing a team around you, like no matter, it's funny because I'll tell you my story really quickly, but part of the reason I do feel that we need to learn how to feel and learn how to sit in those feelings so that we can process them is because we came from a tough generation of parents that are like, you need to be seen and not heard. You don't have a voice. You need to just behave and do what we tell you to do. You need to quit your crying or I'll give you something to cry about, right? Yep. So that was how we were parented. And then we're like, okay, so I can't have emotions. And so for many years, I didn't have emotions either. And I had a traumatic event where my dog tragically passed away. And like, I know it sounds so crazy, but like our dog was our first before our kid. So like it was our part of our family. And she tragically passed away in my arms in a very traumatic situation. And it triggered something in me. Like I was like you. I held it all together. I pushed through. I was successful. I had the life that I wanted, but I'd wake up every morning and I'd have anxiety. Like I'd like want to throw up. I couldn't eat. I was like, but I don't understand why. Like we have the money, we have the house, we have the family, everything is great. I don't understand why I feel this way. Right. And then that trigger happened. And all of a sudden I could not get out of bed for 3 weeks, maybe a month. I would sob. I couldn't hold conversations. And I was like, who is this? This is not me. I'm positive. I'm Christina. I'm going to save the world. I'm going to help everybody. And I couldn't figure out, like, much like you, that something has to hit you so hard that you wake up and break a pattern because those habits are so deeply ingrained in you that you're like, I can no longer continue like this anymore. And so that's what happened. And then when I actually finally went to see a counselor, my sister actually recommended I go to see somebody that was in her BNI group. So networking and finding teams, right? And finding people that will help you. Said, you need to speak to this person about EMDR because you're going through a traumatic situation. I can see that you're not yourself. And like, I think she can help you. And when I went there, it wasn't about my dog dying. It had nothing to do, like had nothing. I mean, it was traumatic and it was heartbreaking. And anybody that's lost a pet, my heart goes out to you and I get tears in my eyes when I think about it. I can now talk about that without crying, but that was the trigger that made me face everything that happened before. And like you said, you don't really want to talk about things that have happened to you in your childhood or things that like maybe are uncomfortable for people around you to hear, family members, friends. You don't want to disturb the peace, right? We don't want to disturb the peace. So we lose our voice. We inevitably lose ourselves. We lose everything because we think that we have to be this version that holds it all together as a.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what we've done for years and years. Sometimes we're labeled as the strong friend. Oh, you're so strong to do this, that, and the third, right? And it's kind of like, oh, honey, if you only knew. But, as I think about, coming up to 2019, because that's when I finally got help, did not realize that I needed it. Because again, I'm functioning, I'm doing everything. Life is great, right?
Great.
But when you suffer in silence and you don't even know where to turn, you don't even know if anybody's going to even understand what I'm trying to say. And more importantly for me, I don't want anyone weaponizing my story, because
Yeah.
don't feel sorry for me, right? What happened to me did not ruin me. But I believe that, as the Bible tells us, God will make all things work together for the good because you love Him and you're called, you have a purpose. So everything in this life that we go through, we're either going to go through it, we're going to come on the other end of it, we're supposed to have a testimony from it or help somebody else along the way. But for so long, I thought it was just me because it seemed like around me, if you can remember, or you think about those movies where the people they have a picture in the picture and they're thinking, they're showing what they're thinking. I could see myself and people around me saying, I wonder if that's her, when something happened to her. But it wasn't even true, right? And so I got free when I started to realize that it is the truth that makes me free. And when I am free, the Bible, I am free indeed. There is nothing that can hold me or bound me anymore, but I have to work at it every single day. That's where those affirmations are real. I mean, you
Yeah.
it until you see it, you get in your eyes, you get in your ears, your heart, and you start saying it out of your mouth until you believe it, right? These chains can no longer hold me. Therefore, I have to amplify my voice. I have to speak out because there's another woman who was just like me 38 years ago as a young child, not knowing who can I talk to, who's going to talk about me, what are people going to think?
Yeah.
And I think that's a little stronghold for a lot of women, hiding behind their positions, hiding behind their jobs or all the things, but not really facing herself and being okay with the beauty that she sees in the mirror. Yeah, I've got some scars. Yeah, I've got torn dress over here. My knees are scabbed and all of that. That's that little girl who's just saying, Jennifer, I want to be healed. I want to be made whole. And I hold the key to her. And so I have made peace with her. And now it's like I can't shut up about it because so many other women have come into my circle to say, that was me, that was me, that was me. And again, it's not to weaponize the story, it's not to feel sorry for us. Oh, by no means. Because these women, when I share with you that are going to be speaking, you will be surprised, you will be uplifted, you will be even empowered to start sharing your story in a way that will impact the people around you, not for sympathy, but to say, you know what, I can rise up too. She did it, I can do it too. And I think that's the power of us telling our stories, to let other women know that you're not alone. We're in this together.
Yeah. And I think that so often people, I mean, there's three things that people are scared of. There's fear of failure, fear of success, and fear of judgment. And that fear of judgment ties into two different things. It ties into they're scared of judgment of their failure, right? So they're scared that people are going to judge them for failing. And then you're also scared that you're going to judge yourself. You talked a lot about that little girl inside of you, right? And like how many people have held a grudge for years and years and years because of how somebody has treated them. You're not going to get an apology. Let me tell you, you have to learn how to heal yourself. You have to learn how to give yourself the love, attention, nurture that you did not get before so that you can be whole as an adult. Because if you don't, you keep going down the generational path and the generational curses that came before, right? And like, we've heard this before in different speeches. I know that you also know Justin Prince, but he says, be the one. Be the one that's willing to do things differently. Be the one that's willing to break generational curses. Be the one that's willing to do and go the extra mile to help people, because that's what we're here for, right? We're not here to selfishly live in our little bubble and just like only, navigate the things that come our way. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to help. We're here to bond with each other and help each other through tough times, which, by the way, we're in the middle of right now, right? And so that's what I was saying to you, Jennifer, is that like right now having a conversation about healing, because the world is being traumatized right now. The world is being triggered and people don't realize why they're so freaking mad. And it's because they haven't done the work to heal their inner child. They haven't done the work to rewrite the story that was underlying, that was gifted to them by somebody that they knew when they were young, right? In a way that now you get to learn who you are. You get to have your own voice and you actually get to create the life that you want if you're willing to face it. If you're willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to change my habits. I'm going to change my standards. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to heal this. Because I used to have a massive temper. I used to have a mass, I would fly off the handle. And now it's so funny because if Ryan says something and I know it's triggered me, my voice will go from here to about a 10 instantly. And I'll get one sentence out and I'll say, please hold. Like, I just need 10 minutes to figure out why I feel this way and why my energy shifted like that. I'll come back to you in 10 minutes and then we can have a conversation about what this is really about. Because there's no point in having this because it's not real. And I don't want to treat you this way and I don't want to have this conversation because it's not the right conversation to have. And the emotional maturity that takes and the emotional intelligence that takes only happens when you do the work.
When you decide to do the work, and you're exactly right. There are many times I would wonder in an opposite way, why am I working so much? Why? And my addiction was achievement.
Yes, of course.
Once I would achieve something, it's like, what's the next thing? I could never really celebrate because as long as I was achieving, I was being seen, I was being heard, right? And so once I understood my triggers, I'm like, you know what? I could celebrate myself. I don't have to wait for somebody to celebrate me. The fact that, okay, I went for a walk and I stayed true to, what I said I was going to do today, my own commitments to myself. So learning how to celebrate me just where I am, just as I am, without all the bells and whistles or what have you, has helped me to be okay with Jennifer. I'm still a work in progress because as long as we wake up every single morning, that's another day we can do better than we did the day before. We can make a better choice. We can help somebody more, whatever it is. But every day we wake up is a blessing. And so one thing I love to share with women is I choose to heal through 3 ways. And that is through my faith, through forgiveness, and through food. When I say food, I'm talking about food for my mind, my body, and my spirit. Because what we feed here, that's who we are. The Bible says what we say to ourselves about ourselves is who we are. Right? So a man thinketh, so is he. So I have to make sure I transform my mind by renewing it daily for me. It has to be daily. I can have a great, great day. One thing can trigger, and then here I am back into that cycle. So you mentioned that earlier. I had to break the cycle. I'm grateful that my children did not experience trauma like I did, but my residual trauma, for lack of navigating through it, spilled over to them. I'll never forget my oldest was in 8th grade and she came to me. Once I told her what had happened to mom, now she's older, she's 30 now, and we had the conversation just 3 years ago. She said, Mom, I didn't think you loved me. I'm like, what? Oh, my heart just shattered. And she said, I knew exactly what she meant. Because when she would get ready for school, I would say things like, you sure you want to wear that to school today? All she heard was, I'm not pretty enough. I don't look good in this. And so just all of that, the mindset and what I have residually put onto her, she said, when I shared with her what happened to me, she goes, now I understand you. But because I held it so long thinking I'm protecting them, this is why now I'm like, we have to share our stories. Because you don't know where it's landing and you're thinking you're protecting your kids or the people that you love or what have you. And it's really not. So that was freedom, even just sharing my story. My husband knew from day one and he still chose me. So that's a whole nother thing.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
I've never had a boyfriend. He was my college sweetheart. And I've never been out with anybody. And I'm just so grateful because I was very picky. I said, God, just send me the guy that's supposed to be with me because I don't want to go through Tom, James, Harry, John, all these people to get to the right one. But I get emotional because he's been there. He's been through it all, through all the, what I know now were like trauma attacks, if you will. I didn't know what was happening to me. It's like, just stay away from me, don't touch me, all the things. And so even sharing that when you're in a marriage, and I praise God for our marriage, is so strong because of communication, number one, and sometimes we don't know how to talk to our spouses about it because we don't want them to see us in a different light. So all that to say, once I started to get the help that I needed, now it's like, bring it on. Bring it on. There are so many women that needs to hear that she can heal, she can be whole, and she can exchange the beauties for her ashes over all the years. It was all in a plan, it's purpose for her life and her destiny. we just have to let her know that it can happen, right? It's just a part of the process, right? So that's what the Courage to Heal conference, that's how it was birthed from my own story and needing a place where I could go talk to somebody, where somebody can see me for who I am, not the Jennifer with the title, not the Jennifer who sang, not the Jennifer who had these kids, not the Jennifer who's the officer's wife, not the, see me,
Yes.
see me. So
That is
yeah,
so
no.
beautiful. That is so beautiful. And everybody, if you think people are boring, it's because you're a bad listener. Everybody has a story that will impact your life if you give them the opportunity to tell it. And vulnerability, as scary as it can be, is your super connector to everyone else. If you have the courage to share your story and be honest about what you've been through, you will help so many other people that are a few steps behind you. So what I would love is for you to tell us a little bit about who is speaking at your event and where and when, how people can find you, like how can they be a part of this? How can they explore this if they've never done anything like this before?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited for this year's conference. It's virtual, and then you can just go to jenniferbell.biz/conference. And the women who are speaking, you've got women coming from the education field, coming from diversity inclusion field, from psychiatrists, psychologists, wellness coaches, you name it, holistic life coaches, counselors, podcasters. They're sharing their story. These women are so powerful, and yet their stories are so different, that they had to overcome whatever the trauma is in their life. And again, I want everyone to know mine was childhood trauma that had to deal with a family member, but there are so many kinds of trauma. There's burnout. That one Dr. Jackson's going to be talking about, just the burnout from her life and how she said something has to give. There is, of course, others that have overcome, just moving to a new country and trying to navigate who they are and where their place is. We have women who are wellness coach. I mean, she's helped me, Jasmine Johnson, she's helped me, an emotional wellness coach. My mother passed away almost 3 years ago this year, and she helps women who have lost their moms. I mean, that is so specific because no one can really understand what you're going through. If I understand we lose people we love, when you lose your mom, as a matter of fact, I wrote a book about me losing my mom called Living to Die. And it's just my tribute to her because her faith was so strong. But all of that to say, these women have come through. I don't know how they're going to share it, but what I do know is that there's healing involved, there's empowerment involved, there's awareness, there is prevention, and there's also support. And that's what I want the most, is having this Courage to Heal circle coming from the conference. So you will have a place to come and just be fed, be inspired, be encouraged, and also get the help that you need to even start the first step. I'm not a therapist. I just know I needed someone somewhere to just say, hey, Jennifer, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. Aside from all the things that you're doing, when you decide to deal with your stuff, I'm going to be right here to support you. And so oftentimes as women, that's what we need more than anything, to know that, hey, I got you, sister. I got you. You don't have to go at it alone. So the Courage to Heal Conference is May 22nd through the 24th. It's a 3-night event, each night at 6:30. And there's going to be breakout sessions where you get to talk with the speakers and go into a little bit more in depth about what it is that they are sharing. And I'm just so excited about these group of women who are going to be pouring out to all those that attend the conference.
That's incredible. Just you naming the different subjects, the diversity that you have, because look, I was so naive moving from Canada to Mexico, like so naive. I did not realize the criticism that we would face. I didn't realize that racism still existed. Like I was so sheltered. And so to share stories like that and share stories of, what people would think trauma looks like, but also like burnout, like having to hold the world on your shoulders can be traumatic if you have nothing left to give. Right. And so I really appreciate that you put this together. Again, what was your website so they can go check it out?
jenniferbell.biz, biz/conference.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here today. Thank you for making a massive impact in the world and for helping women move through their trauma, because it is an uncomfortable thing. It is something that we do need support in, and we need other women that understand that instead of judge, be there and in the trenches, because you and I both know that having a friend to go through that with, it might be one thing to have a counselor, but have a friend, a family member, somebody that can be there alongside you makes all the difference in the world. So thank you so much for being such a light in this world. I am so grateful that we were introduced, and I'm so happy. I look forward to your conference.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, till next time. Bye for now.